Hey, it's Guy here from Off My Bridge, and today we're looking at the 5 differences when creating an adventure for Star Trek, as opposed to creating it for almost any other role-playing game out there. And some of the differences are minor, and you might go, well, obviously. And some of them have huge ramifications for how you should be planning your game so that they don't fall flat. Number 1, super simple. Star Trek, whether you are playing as the lofty Federation, as the rough and tumble honor-bound Klingons, even as the insidious Cardassians, or perhaps as the Ferengi, we all have rules, which you can purchase if you become a Patreon. No, that's a joke. They all have a system in place, a code of ethics, if you will, the Prime Directive, the honor system, the rules of acquisition. Whatever you want to call it, when you are playing within the Star Trek environment, the first thing to bear in mind that under most circumstances, there is going to be this overriding sense of operational procedure that should be followed if you're playing in the Star Trek universe. If you're playing the Federation and you just don't care about the Prime Directive, you shoot first, you take prisoners and torture them, you're not exactly playing Star Trek. You're playing a sci-fi setting, which is your own world, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And number 2, Star Trek is not about death. Your character, if you're playing Star Trek Adventures 2 or almost any other variant, death is not something that happens on a regular basis, and it certainly isn't permanent. I made a very short list of all of the things that you could possibly use to bring your character back to life if they do somehow miraculously end up dying. And the list is, in no particular order: transporter accident makes twins, alternative universe clone arrives, future self appears to replace dead self, past self arrives to save present self, regeneration through scientific means, symbiotic rebirth through a host species, regeneration through strange spatial phenomenon, Q, spatial blip in time, holodeck duplicate made real, mirror universe turned good, intervention by super powerful aliens, new medical device, intervention, nanites. I think this pretty much covers a lot of the different ways in which a character can be brought back to life. We've certainly seen it in almost every single season, in every single series. There is some way of avoiding death. So death is not something that really features much for the main characters in Star Trek. What this means is that the social contract that we have between the GM and the players shifts slightly. And that shift is that as a player, you know that your character is highly unlikely to stay dead. And what that does is that removes that element of trepidation, of caution, that already isn't very strong in role-playing games to begin with, but is even less so in Star Trek. Oh, my character's not likely to die. Maybe get, an injury, get incapacitated, get knocked out, but that's about as far as it'll go, usually speaking. So what this change requires of the players is for the players to treat every situation as if it's life or death, to actually roleplay tension, to roleplay the drama, the nervousness of, you can't go in there, you're going to flood the chamber with radiation and kill everybody, all that kind of stuff. That needs to be roleplayed heavily, and the players need to avoid having this plot armor, bulletproof, I can do anything, I'm going to charge into a barracks full of Jem'Hadar because I know that I'm not likely to die. And as the GM, you have to change as well. You have to acknowledge that the players are building up the tension, and so you need to build up the tension as well. You need to contribute to this. Okay, on to number 3. Your entire game is based on a starship or on an outpost. It is based on a location. And this location might be moving in the case of a starship, or it might be permanent in case of an outpost or a starbase or whatever the case might be. However, this is something that is really different from a lot of other role-playing games, is you have this perma-location, which very seldom gets destroyed. And when it does, it should be the culmination of a very difficult, tragic episode or adventure, whatever you call them. It should be a moment that everyone goes, well, that's the end of the Enterprise. Wow. These moments need to be really important. And that means that you need to build up the starship or the base so that the player characters invest in it, which is perfect. The more time you spend building up the location and the more you allow the players to interact with that location, the more they fall in love with the location and it becomes their own. So you need to make sure that you are designing some adventures that are based entirely around the starship/base. This is something for you to focus on to make sure that the players are actually starting to fall in love with their location. Give it quirks, give it things that it does in one particular adventure. The starship becomes sentient, or it starts to fall apart, or it gets an infection, or it gets this. Think of all of those wonderful episodes of Star Trek where the location, the starship, is reacting in a strange or unusual way. Number 4, and this pertains specifically to Star Trek Adventures 2, but also to Star Trek in general. The characters are very seldom leveling up. And when they do level up, it's really just more pips on the collar, even if these are unfortunately sewn into the costume and way too far apart from one another. But nonetheless, they do level up every now and again, and they gain an extra rank. Leveling up is not a huge thing, unlike other role-playing games where you get more power and you can do more things. In Star Trek Adventures 2, leveling up is you're changing things that you just didn't like about yourself or about other people. You're adjusting and growing and adapting. And as a matter of fact, most of the time you're only leveling up when you are actually adjusting and learning and that sort of thing. You're not gaining any extra abilities or scores and things like that. Very seldom are you doing that. So what does this mean for us as GMs of this system? Well, what that means is we need to then start issuing other things. Commendations, things that can go onto the character sheet as a permanent record. Upgrading the starship or the base, if that is part of the crew that you have created, is also a great idea. Hey, what color carpets would you like on the bridge? It's your choice. As the player characters, that could be something pretty cool. Anyway, simple things like that make it all work. Now, number 5, I have saved for last because number 5 is the most technical and I feel the most significant difference between Star Trek and a lot of other role-playing games. And I'm talking about the type of adventure that you need to create for a Star Trek adventure. I've spoken a lot on my various YouTube channels about the 4 different adventure types: thwarting, delivering, collecting, and discovering. Star Trek has a fifth one, and I've hinted at it before. The 5th one is, I'm calling it solving, because it's very different from discovering or any of the others, as a matter of fact. When you look at the initial 4, they are all linear progression type adventures. The players discover something, something happens, the players then follow a series of breadcrumbs until they get to the end, but it's all nice and linear. One thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. Hopefully, at least that's the plan. Solving is where the characters discover things and they're all jumbled and they have to then make them linear. They need to work out the linear progression to then discover where to go. So they have to solve the mystery to find the end point. If you think about it, someone blows up a star. Someone steals a rare chemical from the Romulans. Someone attacks an outpost of neutral designation that is really just a stellar observatory. Captain Kirk dies 100 years ago in a strange phenomenon. When you look at it like that, you go, well, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How or where is the adventure here? But when you put it into sequence, when the players work out the sequence and they go, Captain Kirk died of a strange phenomenon, the phenomenon is a gravity-directed phenomenon. When you blow up a star, it changes the gravity, so the phenomenon changes direction. You blow up a star using a rare chemical which is stolen from the Romulans, and the stellar observatory, which the Romulans then attacked, could have been where a facility was to use this stolen chemical to generate missiles that destroy stars. Suddenly that makes sense. The linearity of putting the various facts together makes sense. And then you can say, okay, well, if someone's blowing up planets or stars to bring this thing somewhere, where is it going to go next? Aha! By creating a linear progression of of events, the players then work out where the final event is going to be, and then can go there, and then it becomes more traditional. We arrive, we stop the bad guys, we win. But it is in creating that linearity of events that is really important. And what does this mean for us as GMs? Well, what it means is that you need to create all of these different events. And so when you go about creating the adventure, you need to work out all of the events, and then you almost need to jumble them up and let the players discover them as they're going along. But then that means that you need to have some kind of link to the next event. Not a linear link, but a link to the thing, so that the players can start to form these things and then work out, oh, well, this happened first, then this happened, then this happened, then that happened. So it's a really, really complex adventure type that you're creating, requires much more effort on your behalf than more traditional adventures, but is so much more rewarding when the players do actually figure it out and go, oh my goodness, if you do this and this and this and this, look at that. This must be a thing that's going to be happening. This is amazing. We need to get there and stop it. The reward is so much sweeter than just following progression. There's nothing wrong with just following progression, by the way. Those are very rewarding adventures in their own right. But here, the players have almost done more than just roll dice to overcome obstacles. They've actually mentally worked it out. So those are my 5 main differences for Star Trek Adventures 2. What are yours? Do you have any others that you think I missed out in this video? If you do, leave your comments down below and we'll take it from there. Until next time, all I have to say is a massive thank you to all of my patrons who keep the Warp Core running. And of course, if you like this video, there's 5 reasons for you to have clicked that like button. Until next week, I wish you and yours long life and happy gaming.